Hi, everyone. This is Susan Haggins here from Northwest Employment Works Confederation College in Thunder Bay, Ontario. And the workshop that you signed up for today is the hidden job market. So that's what I'm going to be speaking to. It's a fairly quick workshop. I go down to the basics and go through everything quickly, but if you have any questions, feel free to ask, and I'll do my best to answer. And we'll go over some great information. So the hidden job market, where are the jobs hiding? So I hope everyone can see my screen. And we're just going to go into some basics. So before you start, what I want to make sure that you have is a set employment goal. You should have a professional resume, and you should have a positive attitude. If you're going to try to access the hidden job market, it can be a very difficult time. If you've been looking for work for a while, you don't want to go in with a negative attitude. It could really burn some bridges for you. So you really want to make sure that you're in a really good place where you can kind of go in with that positive attitude to learn some great information and access the hidden job market. So I want you to think of the hidden job market as an extra tool in your toolbox. It's not the only thing that you should be doing. I'm not saying to stop applying for advertised positions. That's still very, very important. But what I'm saying is a lot of people don't tap into the hidden job market, and because of that, they're missing out on potential work opportunities. There are three top tools that can help you when you're job searching in the hidden job market. The first is cold calls, and we'll be going over that in detail. The second is networking, and the third tool in the toolbox is informational interviews. So those would be the three main areas, and each have their own unique time and place that they're to be used when you're job searching. So cold calls I tend to use and recommend to my clients when you just need to work. I would not use this approach when you're looking for a very professional position. I would more so use this approach when you're looking for an entry-level position, or when you have an absolute immediate need to gain employment and you just need to hit the ground running. So there are a couple of different approaches you would want to take. You can look in the yellow pages of the phone book, and it's also accessible online, yellow pages, or you can do a walk around. So it's where you actually go in person physically to the area that you want to work in. You want to have a 30-second elevator pitch prepared in advance. So something that sounds like, you know, hi, I'm so-and-so, I have this level of experience and this level of education, and I'm looking for this position. And you want to have practiced it ahead of time so you feel comfortable and confident saying it. And then you would go systematically, so one by one, through each employer that you're interested in, and just get calling, so picking up the phone or walking into the business and taking the old school approach of that cold calling. So it's best when you're looking for work in non-competitive fields. So the service sector, the labor area, and that kind of thing. So you can use this approach. So, hi, can I please have the name of the person in charge of hiring? So you would write that down. So you're talking usually to the receptionist at this point. My belief is that knowledge is power. So the more you know, the better off you're going to be. And so if you just normally say, can I talk to the hiring manager, the receptionist is there to act as a buffer. And so, you know, they'll try to sway you away from gaining access at times. So you want to find out the name. How do you spell that? So then the bottom bulletin that you see on your screen is a little kind of sample elevator pitch. So it says, hi, manager's name, you know, I have 2 years of labor experience, have taken the construction techniques course at Confederation College, and I'm very interested in working at your company. I was wondering if you are currently hiring. So you're putting yourself out there, and you're showing some things that you say on your resume. In your resume, you say you're motivated and you're dedicated. When you do this kind of approach, you're showing the employer that you're motivated and you're dedicated. Now, what to do if they're not hiring? So the manager says, no, I'm sorry, we're not hiring right now. You've got them on the phone. Ask them some follow-up questions. Again, knowledge is power. Oh, okay, that's okay. What time of year do you usually hire? Is it okay if I send my resume in to you? Will you keep it on file? Can I follow up with you? When should I follow up? A lot of the times managers have positions that come up unexpectedly, and usually they'll look to see someone who has applied to see if they might be interested. So you might not get hired right then and there, but you could be setting yourself up for future opportunities. There's an old saying that the squeaky wheel gets the oil, and it's very true. You need to be the squeaky wheel. If all you do is you go onto the job bank and you apply to a position, and then it gets in an email inbox, and that's it. You're just, you're not even a piece of paper. You're an electronic thing that they might not even open your resume. But if you take this approach, now all of a sudden you're a voice and you're a person and you're showing energy and enthusiasm, and you're really going after what you want in life. You're not being passive. You're being a lot more forward, and so employers want to hire people who really want to work for them. And when you start taking this kind of a more forward approach, you're showing that you really want to be working. You're not just passively applying to positions. And again, I'm not saying don't apply to advertised positions. Absolutely do that, but definitely consider some of these things as well. So the effective cold calling, some of the things I've gone over with you, it sets you apart from the crowd, shows them that you have confidence in yourself, which is very important. It gives you information on the employer that you didn't have previously, and you want to use the information. So you want to create a reminder in your phone calendar so you have an automatic reminder of who and when to follow up with. Again, just because you're not considered at one point in time doesn't mean you won't be later, and sometimes you need to apply multiple times to be considered for positions. So I have a little video that I did, and we'll see if it works. Sometimes the audio is not that great, but we'll try to have it work for you.
Did you know that 75% of jobs go unadvertised? Yes, that's right. Employers have positions that they're not posting. Now, you might ask yourself why? Why could an employer possibly not post a position? And I can tell you, it costs employers time and it costs employers money. Now, time and money to an employer equals their energy. They're not going to expend their energy in that way when what they can do instead is check within their network to see if they might have a person who could be a good fit for the position. They do this before they advertise. Now, this can leave you searching in the dark if you're not using your network to effectively help you with your job search. You need to network.
So that was just a little ditty on networking that I created for you guys, and I'm sorry that the audio isn't the greatest. I'm going to have to work on that. But it talked about some really great key points, and we're going to go over those points in the slideshow, so don't worry if you missed any of it. I go over it again now. So we're moving on to networking. Oh, so I wanted to make note too. I think it's always great to give examples. And so with the cold calling, before I move on, I'll give you an example. I've been doing helping people secure employment for over 10 years. And I used to run a job search skills workshop, and I presented this material to the group of about 10 people, and some of them were a little bit skeptical, and they said, yeah, come on, Susan, yeah, right, this doesn't work, cold calling. And there was a gentleman looking for a laborer job around this time of year, and he's like, everyone's done, it's the end of the season, nothing's happening. And I said, you know what, yeah, it's the end of the season, but contractors have to get things done before the snow flies. A lot of the time, students leave at this time of year to go back to school, and they're left short. Employers hire laborers at this time of year, I promise you. And I had this thing I used to do where I would make baking, and I asked him, what's your favorite dessert? And he's like, chocolate eclairs. So I said, I will make you chocolate eclairs tomorrow, but you tonight, and bring them to the workshop tomorrow. You have to promise you're going to go through the phone book and phone at least 10 labor contracting companies, and then you come back here tomorrow and tell me cold calling doesn't work. And so he said, yeah, okay, I'll do it. So I got to work the next day, and he left me a very nice voicemail saying, I hope you enjoy the chocolate eclairs. I'm really sorry I can't come into work, but I found a job. And you were right, cold calling works, it's awesome. And I was very happy, obviously, that he was able to find a position. And it was really great for the rest of the people in the workshop as well, because I had a live example of how it had worked for someone. And it's not always going to work in every situation, but right now, the market is really hot for finding work. And chances are there's an employer out there who just doesn't have the time to look through the resumes, or has been waiting for someone to show some enthusiasm and initiative. And if you just go through where you want to be working and make some phone calls, you never know if you could be one of the people who might be considered. And the worst thing that they can say to you is, no, I'm sorry, we're not hiring right now. Okay, great, thanks so much for the information. Click next one. So if you're desperate, like the bills are piling up and you need to be working and you really just have to get a job, then I would say to you that this is 100% what you need to be doing, because you never know. And like I said, the worst that you're going to get told is no, and that's okay. And just move on. So next, we're going to talk about networking. So networking is who you know, pretty much. So you think to yourself, okay, who do I know? And you know your friends, you know your family, you know old co-workers, you know your references, you know your teammates, you know your neighbors, your teachers, your acquaintances, you know people who are associations or groups that you are with. Example is Thunder Bay has a shift network. It's a young professionals network, and it's a way to get together and network in the community. A lot of people say to me, I don't know that many people, but when you actually start thinking about it and making a list, then you'll find that you actually know a lot more people than you think that you do. So you'd actually want to create a list, something that looks like this. And the purpose of creating the list would be to try to reach out to your network and make some connections start happening. So again, it's not sitting passively back and wondering about positions. It's actually going out there and talking to people. The majority of positions that get advertised, someone has networked in order to be considered for it. It's usually a word of mouth hire for a lot of the positions that you see. So once you've created that list, you want to think about what is your goal from doing networking. And so what you want to do is focus on building relationships and not on stepping stones. So what that means is it's not about using people to get what you want. It's about building relationships. So you also want to try to help others and allow them to help you. So you want to share information and ask questions, and you want to be genuine. So in any job searching or networking situation, being the real you should be your goal. Pretending someone you're not will only get in the way of finding the job that's right for you. And you want to be considerate. So ask what's going on in their lives, be present, take the time to really listen. It's important to take the time to reconnect before you're sharing your goals and strategies. So you want to ask for information or advice, but you do not want to ask for a job. And I know a lot of people think that this is really counterproductive, but I think that what you'll find is if there's no job available at that exact moment in time, you're going to put somebody in a corner. No, I'm sorry, I don't know of a job for you. That's like end of discussion. You move on to something else. It's kind of uncomfortable and it's a negative. They can't help you. You don't want to make someone feel that way. Instead, what you want to do is to try to allow them to help you with information. So you want to prepare in advance. Think about what questions you're going to ask when you get together with someone to do networking. Think about, do you need help with a reference, a referral, an introduction to someone, information on training or upgrading your skills. You want to have an objective from the meeting that you have with them. You want to keep notes on the people in your network and the conversations that you've had. You want to update your notes after each conversation. And believe it or not, it can make a difference because life gets busy, you volunteer, maybe you're working in a job, maybe you have kids and families and extracurricular activities, and sooner or later you can forget the good stuff that you've gotten from having these conversations, so you definitely want to keep track of it. So we're just going to skip by that because we're probably going to still have some of those same issues with the volume. But to go into networking, ironically, today I'm actually networking with someone. I had a friend who has someone who is looking for a position, and she said, "Hey, Susan, do you mind if this individual contacts you because you work for the college and she's interested in working there?" And I said, "Sure, absolutely, I'll network with her. I remember meeting her once or twice, and yeah, I'll go for lunch with her. Absolutely, no problem." And so that kind of addresses one of the big things that stops people from doing this, and that is that they feel like they're going to be a bother. They don't want to bug people. We're always worried about perceptions, and I think in this case in time, what I would ask you to do is picture yourself, and you're working somewhere, or you're not, or whatever, and somebody comes to you and says, "Hey, can I have 5 to 10 minutes of your time just to sit down? I need to do some networking. I'm considering a different career path, or I'm, searching for employment, and I'm not asking for a job. I'm just looking for some information, and I just want around 5 to 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes of their time. Didn't you know, like, Joe at so-and-so? Do you mind if I reach out to them? Is that okay?" And most of the time, people are gonna say, "Sure, absolutely, no problem," because I think as Canadians, we want to help. If there's something that we can give and it's not going to cost us anything and it's going to make us feel good and we can share, then that's something that most people will want to do. And if they don't want to, then that's okay too. Again, all you're going to get told is no, and you're in the same situation you were before. But if they say yes, then you have potential to have access to a lot of key information that can be really helpful for you in moving forward with your goals and accessing the hidden job market. So next topic of conversation is informational interviews. So informational interview is where you have a conversation about a company of interest with someone who can help you to get a future position. So it could be gaining information about a specific job, to get advice on how your qualifications might fit in with the organization, to determine if a certain line of work is for you, and most importantly, to network. Just because an employer may not have any openings at present doesn't mean that they won't have openings in the future. So you want to think of an informational interview as an investment in your time. You do not want to go into the informational interview with no information on the industry. You definitely need to do some research first. So you might be asking yourself at this point in time, what are some common informational interview questions? And I've created a list here, but if you do a Google search, you'll find that there are tons of information on all of the subjects that I've spoken to you about today. So if you need a recap on anything, look up the terms cold calling, and it'll give you a elevator pitch example. Look up the term networking, how to network effectively. Same thing with informational interviewing. If you're ever unsure about a topic, in today's day and age, it's expected that you would go and find out the information that you need. And that's a very powerful thing. And that's actually a trait that employers look for in job seekers, someone who can do this type of thing. Because when you're on the job, if there's something that you don't know, then you can have that ability to go and look it up and find the information. And so it shows a little bit about your personality type too. If you are going to go and do this type of exercise, it shows your research skills and your ability to problem solve, and your communication skills, conversation skills, your soft skills, your ability to be on time and to make connections happen. And for a lot of positions, that's a requirement of the job, because all of those things come into play in almost any position. So for the common informational interview questions, there's a whole bunch that you can ask. What are the primary job responsibilities? What experience did you have to get your job? How long have you worked there? What is your own background and experience? What is a typical workday like? How much contact and what kind of interactions do you have with individuals or groups? What do you dislike the most? What are the toughest problems and decisions you handle? What do you wish you had known about your position before you started? So you want to be taking notes on all of this. You want to be writing it down. a lot of the times people in their job search only look at a job ad and they see, okay, this is what you'd be doing in this position. But sometimes what you don't know is what's the pain point for the employer? What problem can you solve? What have you done in your past that would make you a good fit for the position? What kind of examples of past experiences you've had that you can bring to the employer? So by asking all of these questions, you really get a better sense than what a job ad can tell you. It really gives you an insight into the kind of key workings of the position or the company. I always want to ask, what is the entry-level position that most people are able to access the organization through? Because there always is that position that people kind of go through the door from. So what recommendations do you have for me regarding a job search strategy is a really great question, and I think that one would be very helpful as well. So post-informational interview, you want to send a thank you note. They're taking the time out of their day to help you. Gratitude can go a long way. It's very important. Ensure that you keep in touch with the person that you spoke with. You never know when a position might turn up. And you don't want to be pressuring, though. You want to do it in a very kind of relaxed, respectful way. Keep track of what you review with them. Follow up on subjects of interest. Connect with them on LinkedIn. Forward articles of interest to them. Try to keep that connection up and happening. So what might you learn from doing an informational interview? So some of the key things that I've learned in my past informational interviews are that sometimes employers only hire casuals or part-time staff, and they take from there for full-time positions. And if you want to be considered by a company, especially if it's a union environment, then that is a step that you might need to take. You might be sitting at home waiting for that perfect full-time year-round position to come around at your top 5 employers, but that position might not ever occur. We have a community living organization in Thunder Bay, and that's the case with them. They hire casuals. Once you are on as a casual, you have access to full-time, permanent, and part-time postings that you can apply to. You will never see a job ad posted for a full-time position with that organization. Contract staff are often the first staff considered for permanent positions. So going for those contract positions can be important. So really using the hidden job market to find out key pieces of information you might be missing. I actually did an informational interview with the Catholic Board here in Thunder Bay. I had been working as a student support person with the public board, and I applied to the Catholic Board, and I didn't even get an interview. And I thought, what's going on? Like, what's happening here? What's stopping me? And so, you know, it was hard to pick up the phone and to make the call to set up an informational interview, but I did it, and I sat in front of human resources and I asked my questions, and I found out that the education that I have is not what they were looking for. They wanted a different diploma, and if I wanted to be considered for that employer, then I would need to go back to school. That was something that I didn't want to do, and I was able to use the credentials that I have to get work in another area. But if I hadn't done that informational interview, I would always be wondering why. Like, why am I not being considered? And sometimes just, you know, knowing what you're missing can really help you to move forward or to shift gears or to go about things in a different way. So from doing the informational interview, you might find that a position might open up and your name can be put forward. You're no longer a faceless, unknown entity. You are now a person who is shown who you are as an individual because you're going above and beyond and doing more than what other people are doing in their job search, and that's going to yield some results for you, whether it's just information, a new contact, or a potential position in the future. To recap, I don't want you to stop searching on advertised positions, but be aware that a lot of those advertised positions are going to be obtained by people who have done the things that I've spoken to today. They know someone in the organization, they're now working, and you want to be that person. You want to be the person who's already kind of on the back of the mind of the employer when they post that advertised position. So you want to do both. Apply to advertised positions because you never know. They might not have any in mind, but you also want to access the hidden job market and try to put yourself out there. And I promise that the more that you do this, the more comfortable you will be doing this. If you're listening to this workshop and you're thinking to yourself, there is no way that I can do this, and I'm just going to say that, yes, you can. But if you find that you just won't, like you're not going to do it, you don't have it in you, then I suggest that you talk to an employment advisor and talk to the job developers that are available through the Employment Ontario network throughout Ontario to help you to either prepare to do this and talk through it with you one-on-one in person to figure it out, or to get some assistance in networking through the job development network. Because doing this kind of thing can be very valuable, and I don't want you to miss out on opportunities by just sitting back and applying to online advertised jobs. The World Wide Web is a really great resource, but I find that job seekers are trying to use it too much and not doing that old-fashioned look you in the eyes, give you a handshake, and prove and really show who you are as an individual. All of those soft skills are really what employers are looking for. Showing up on time, being presentable, being friendly and outgoing, and you can't really show that who you are from a piece of paper or an electronic resume. You can only do that by being in front of another person and showing them who you are as an individual. So that's pretty much it for my presentation. Like I said, it's fairly short and sweet. It goes over a lot of information, but I think that if you try to use some of the tools that I've used today and spoken of today, that it's going to help you. Is there